influencer Matilda Djerf is receiving criticism. Here's why.
The beauty, fashion, and wellness industries have been transformed by influencer-founded brands. What started as a handful of content creators launching merch has evolved into full-fledged business empires. From skincare lines selling out in minutes to fashion brands reshaping trends overnight, these companies thrive on personal branding and trust, where customers feel like they're buying not just a product, but a vision of a lifestyle.
Your favorite influencer has been outed as a bully, and the girlies are pissed.
Yet, for every influencer brand that reaches cult status, there's an equally loud wave of criticism, skepticism, and backlash.
Swedish tabloid have just released a huge expose on Djerf Avenue.
People celebrate these founders until they don't. Why?
This is how Matilda Djerf spent 8 years cultivating her nice girl image, only for it to come crumbling down in the worst way imaginable.
This is the dark truth behind the influencer to CEO pipeline, birthing the so-called mean girl brands.
I actually think that she's not a kind person, but I don't think that she needs to be a kind person.
And just like the movie Mean Girls, the mean girls are not just the plastics. They're also the girls hating on the plastics.
Matilda Djerf is getting cancelled in a big way.
The dark truth behind the influencer to CEO pipeline is laden with societal biases, misogyny, and internalized misogyny. Because how can it be 2025 and we are still doing witch hunts on women who dare to do something different? And just to be clear, some of the criticism is 100% valid, but some of it feels eerily familiar. Part of a long history of scrutinizing successful women more harshly than their male counterparts. Yes, we can demand accountability from female founders, push for better female-driven economies, and still acknowledge that the way we treat women in business often reflects the larger gender power structures we live in. This is a tale of influencer brands, female founders, and why we love and hate them at the same time. Because this is the dark truth behind the influencer to CEO pipeline. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. I always get asked how I come up with topics for the Spoiled Girly support group, and to be honest, I tend to talk about things that are near and dear to me. Things that have happened to me, or to women I know or knew. Things that are a recurring theme in my life, a recurring theme in social media and traditional media. And the more I do these episodes, the more I realize that I have never had a unique experience in my life. And from therapy, I learned that writing and working through things and reframing things in a more helpful way is what brings me peace whenever negative events happen in my life. And I'm so grateful to be given these tools that help me navigate the world with more clarity and openness. And by allowing myself that grace and balance, not only do I help myself, but I also get to help others too. Early last year, I restarted therapy and found my therapist on BetterHelp. And they're a big part of how I am able to keep making episodes for the Spoiled Girly support group. And that's why I was so excited when BetterHelp wanted to work together. BetterHelp is a platform where therapists and their clients can communicate effectively and get the most out of therapy. There's a journal inside the platform for personal reflection, and there are group sessions on a number of different topics available every day. BetterHelp makes finding a licensed, qualified, and aligned therapist so easy. Just fill out a questionnaire and you will match with a therapist in as little as a couple days. And if you don't vibe with your current therapist, say less. BetterHelp will match you with the new one, no questions asked. So if you're struggling and think you'd benefit from a therapy session, click the link in the description or go to betterhelp.com/manifestelle and get 10% off your first month of therapy. That's betterhelp.com/manifestelle to get 10% off your first month of therapy. Now back to the topic. Hey bestie, welcome to the Spoiled Girly Support Group podcast, where we talk about how to get that bag while also securing your own bag. I'm your host Elle, and let's get into it. On today's episode, we are talking about influencer brands, female founders, and why we love and hate them at the same time, and how this is the dark truth behind the influencer to CEO pipeline. This is something that we don't like talking about, but we keep participating in. Now, we have a lot to cover, but before we get into it, I need you to hit the like, subscribe, and the notification bell so you never miss a Spoiled Girly episode. With that being said, let's get into it. First, how did we even get here? For decades, traditional celebrities had limited entry points into the business world. The best that they could hope for was a collaboration with an existing brand, a limited edition lipstick shade, a capsule clothing collection, or a perfume deal. But the real power and profits stayed with the corporations behind these partnerships. For example, Audrey Hepburn. While Audrey Hepburn is synonymous with the 1961 movie Breakfast at Tiffany's, it's unclear whether she had a direct business collaboration with the brand, but what is clear is her image solidified Tiffany's brand positioning as classic luxury and timeless elegance, which really proved to have staying power that lasted decades and decades and decades. Whenever we think of Audrey Hepburn, we think Breakfast at Tiffany's and then Tiffany & Co. They're very, very inextricably linked. Givenchy also created the perfume L'Interdit for Hepburn, and she was the face of it, but she didn't own or profit from the sales directly like modern influencers do via the affiliate system. But in the digital age, influencers flipped the script. While they may be the face of numerous brands, they also created their own brands. And how did they do that? Well, it's all thanks to social media. Social media has revolutionized how brands are built. Unlike traditional celebrities whose influence is spread through traditional mainstream media such as film, cable TV, and mass print, influencers maintain a direct, unfiltered connection with their audience, making them the ultimate direct-to-consumer DTC marketing machines. And for reference, the direct-to-consumer model, aka DTC model, is a business approach where brands sell their products directly to customers without relying on third-party retailers, wholesalers, or middlemen. And this model allows companies to control their branding, pricing, and customer experience while collecting valuable first-party data. And some of the biggest names in the game include Kylie Cosmetics by Kylie Jenner, Rare Beauty by Selena Gomez, Rhode by Hailey Bieber, Skims by Kim Kardashian, and Summer Fridays by Mariana Hewitt and Lauren Ireland, and also Pop Flex by Casey Ho. Recent additions include Dairy Boy by Paige Lorenz, Park by Chelsea Park, See You Tomorrow by Madeline White, and Djerf Avenue by Matilda Djerf, who was just raked over the coals this past holiday season. And full disclosure, I am one of these people too, technically, albeit a very, very recent, very, very small addition, but I just wanted to be upfront with that. I am one of these people. And as we talked about in our class titled Influencing is a Real Job, which discusses the devaluation of influencers as laborers, influencing as an industry, and because influencing is a female-dominated industry, the devaluation of female labor as a whole. Because about 80% of influencers are women, most influencer-founded brands tend to be female-led. And it's a shift in redefining who holds the power in the beauty, the fashion, and wellness industries. And this gets us into the rise of female founder-led brands. Women have historically been the biggest consumers of beauty and fashion, yet the industry has long been controlled by male executives. But now, influencer brands are challenging that power structure. Instead of relying on traditional corporate backing, investors, or department store placements, female founders are using social media to create DTC brands. And these female founder-led brands are brands whose founders were not initially influencers to begin with, so I wouldn't call them influencer brands. And these brands include Set Active by Lindsay Carter and Odd Muse by Amy Smale. And both these founders have been developing their own personal brands to document their own founder journeys and to inspire others to do the same, which we love, love, love. Speaking of love, why do we, the girlies, love these brands so much? And there's a lot of reasons to love them. Influencer brands have reshaped the way people connect with products, offering something that traditional companies often struggle to replicate: authenticity, relatability, and a direct connection to the creator. And these brands, they don't feel like distant corporate ventures. They feel very personal, built by someone who understands what their audience wants because they are the audience. And at the heart of their success is representation. In industries historically dominated by major corporations, influencer brands introduce a new kind of leadership, one where women especially are at the forefront of both business and beauty. They challenge the old industry gatekeepers, and they prove that a direct relationship with consumers can be just as powerful as traditional retail models. And also, we love these brands so much because of community. The power of community-driven marketing is enormous. Unlike traditional brands that rely on polished advertising and celebrity endorsements, influencer brands, they grow through organic excitement, word of mouth, social media virality, and real customer testimonials. A single viral video can create an instant bestseller because these brands are deeply embedded in online culture. They know exactly how to keep their audiences engaged and happy. Finally, influencer brands, they are really good at filling the gaps in the market. They don't just follow trends, they set them. Whether it's offering shades for underrepresented skin tones, shout out to Fenty, launching size inclusive fashion, or creating innovative formulas, these brands, they thrive by listening to what consumers actually want. Unlike the legacy companies that take years to adapt, influencer brands move fast. They deliver products that feel fresh, relevant, and designed with the customer in mind. Long story short, we love influencer brands because they're not just brands. They are blueprints for the future of business. Personal, community-driven, and built for the people who believe in them. And for the most part, the influencer brands, they deliver on that promise. Up until they don't. In late 2024, Swedish influencer and entrepreneur Matilda Djerf, founder of the fashion brand Djerf Avenue, faced significant controversy following allegations from former and current employees regarding a toxic work environment. A report by the Swedish newspaper Aftonbladet featured testimonies from 11 anonymous staff members who accused Djerf of bullying, favoritism, and body shaming. And one of the most notable allegations involving Djerf in this specific controversy was her designating a private restroom for herself and select employees and reportedly placing a sign that read, "Please do not use." And when the sign fell and another non-select employee used the restroom, that individual was allegedly instructed to clean it as punishment. And additionally, Djerf was also accused of making derogatory comments about a plus-size model, allegedly stating that photos needed to be redone because the model appeared so effing fat in the clothing. And in response to all these allegations, Djerf issued a public apology on her Instagram account, which a lot of people also criticized as possibly having been AI. But she did issue an apology, and the apology acknowledged her lack of preparedness in leading a rapidly growing company and expressing regret for any harm caused. And she also outlined the steps to improve the work environment at Djerf Avenue, including hiring a more experienced management team, introducing anonymous feedback mechanisms, and collaborating with external organizational psychologists. And I remember this was happening late 2024, and it was like everything everywhere all at once. Like the backlash was swift and intense. And this was also around Christmas time, and guess who got her Djerf Avenue fruit robe for Christmas? And it was a surprise, like I didn't know I was getting it. And it was just interesting because this was the time that Matilda Djerf was getting canceled. And there I was, like in my comfy robe, like all bundled up, going on TikTok, and everyone's yucking my yum about the robe. I'm like,
Oh, it's ugly anyway, blah, blah, blah.
but like it is an objectively good robe, you know? And I had to check in with myself too, because every time people were attacking Matilda, because I was wearing her robe, by association, I also felt a little attacked. And everyone was like,
Oh, whoever bought those robes, they're so basic. Like, they will buy anything, blah, blah, blah.
and it also is a reflection of how our consumption also reflects our identities. And there is no escaping it, absolutely no escaping it. Whatever we consume is closely tied with our identities. And that's why I also felt kind of attacked when people were attacking her, because they were saying she's basic, she's this and that. And I'm like, if I consume her products, am I also basic and this and that, you know? So it was just like very interesting, and I had to like check in with myself, like, why am I feeling these feelings? So yeah, let me know how you also felt in your fruit robe while this controversy was going on, because it's a very interesting feeling, and I don't think I've ever articulated it like that before. It's a very interesting moment. Anyway, the disconnect for people during this time was that Djerf built her empire on the promise of effortless cool girl elegance, which was a vision of beauty that wasn't unattainable, but aspirational, welcoming, and warm. And there's so much discourse on Matilda Djerf, by the way. on TikTok. And one of the points that someone brought up about her, like, I've watched probably hundreds of videos, so I can't find it. But one of the points was that Matilda doesn't look like your Instagram baddie. She looks like the girl next door. If your girl next door had like outrageously beautiful hair, like 24/7. But aside from the hair, she looks like your girl next door. She has great style. Her style is basic. And we already did a class on this. Being basic is an act of self-love. Like, I love being basic. I am basic. Like, I'm the first percentile of girls. Like, there's nothing wrong with being basic. Absolutely nothing wrong with being basic. So anyway, that was the draw for a lot of people with Matilda Djerf. She's effortless and cool girl. And she wasn't unattainable at all, but still slightly aspirational. Like, she got that. Like, she had it. She had the it factor. And then this controversy comes up, and it became clear that this effortless, cool girl, very warm and welcoming vibe wasn't really the vibe at Djerf headquarters. And obviously, like I said, there were a lot of reactions to this. People defending Matilda, people doubling down on her, people saying, like,
Who cares? Like, who cares?
and one of the commentary that stuck out to me was how this controversy was not at all surprising, that it was bound to happen. Basically, the influencer to CEO pipeline has repeatedly exposed the gap between personal branding and leadership skills. Running a multi-million-dollar fashion brand requires more than just good taste and a loyal following. And when a brand is built on the personality of its founder, any personal scandal becomes a brand crisis. And obviously, Djerf apologized and acknowledged her shortcomings and promised structural changes and actually followed through with hiring people to mediate the situation. But people are still in her comments to this day, bringing up the controversy, telling her she's an XYZ bad person. And here's the thing, what is this outrage for? Like, what are we trying to achieve here? Because the Djerf controversy already highlighted Matilda Djerf's poor leadership skills. And to remedy that, she hired professional leaders. And obviously, it will never, ever, ever undo the harm that she caused her employees, and she may or may not have apologized to them personally properly. But at the end of it all, months after the controversy, people in her comments are still holding her accountable. Like, what are we trying to achieve? Because a female leader, a female boss who acted like Djerf did allegedly is not at all a rare occurrence. Many of us have dealt with bosses like Matilda Djerf, and even worse. And so should we go on their LinkedIns and leave mean comments? Should we go to upper management and tell them that they need to get fired because they're not nice, that they don't want to share a bathroom with us? Not to mention that there may be a valid reason, such as contamination anxiety, that prevents someone from sharing a bathroom with other people. And obviously, there is absolutely zero excuse for body shaming and any appearance-based comments. But I just can't seem to shake off this feeling that the backlash against Matilda Djerf, even after her remedying the problems, and the ongoing backlash is just very misogynistic. Matilda Djerf's fault isn't only that she was a poor leader, isn't only that she body shamed, isn't only that she created a toxic work culture. Her biggest fault is that she was highly visible and highly successful. Her biggest fault was that she was a woman. Because here's the thing, while the criticisms are 100% absolutely valid, and I want to make that clear that I'm not excusing the alleged behavior as reported by numerous credible news outlets, but we need to ask ourselves, do we judge female founders more harshly than we do their male counterparts? When the former CEO of Abercrombie & Fitch openly cultivated a brand of exclusivity and body shaming, he was a punchline, a cautionary tale, but not the recipient of the same widespread moral reckoning. When Uber's former CEO was caught on camera drunkenly berating his own driver, it was just another example of Silicon Valley arrogance, not a career-ending scandal. We have allowed male founders the grace to be flawed, egotistical, even outright cruel because we assume power corrupts men. But when it comes to women in power, we expect moral perfection. And none of this is to say that Matilda Djerf should be absolved. Her brand was built on inclusivity, and these allegations directly contradict that. She needs to be held accountable, and she was, and she fixed the issues. And her consumers have the right to demand better. And they did. But if we are going to move forward as a society centered on women and children, aka a matriarchy, we need to recognize that we are in a transitional period, a period where women are moving into power all while redefining it. And we'll never get through this transition if we hold other women to impossible standards of kindness, grace, and ethical purity. Because the truth is, we will all fail to live up to these impossible standards. Like, these standards, they are not meant to be reached. They're not meant to be achieved. They are meant to gatekeep women from positions of power. They are meant to gatekeep women from stepping into that power and redefining that power. This isn't to say, no nuance Nelly, that we shouldn't try to lead with kindness, with grace. But when we fail, because none of us is perfect, it's not too much to expect some of that grace and kindness back. And if you're a female founder, apparently that's just way too much to ask. And that's because the hatred of founders is gendered. While researching for today's class, I came across Exited founder Ali Kriegsman's Substack article titled "Women Hate Women Who Go for What They Want." And Exited founder means that they successfully left the company they founded, typically by selling their ownership stake through an acquisition, merger, or public offering. Kriegsman writes, "Women hate women who go for what they want and will collectively punish a woman who tries to and succeeds at attaining more than others. I quickly learned that hating other women is a survival mechanism." A 2013 review article by Joyce Benenson titled "The Development of Human-Female Competition, Allies, and Adversaries." And it was eye-opening. It's a great summary for female competition and why we do the things we do to other women. And one thing that stuck out to me was why women are so conflict averse. And because we are so conflict averse, we have come up with ways to decrease competition so that we can secure resources for ourselves. Benenson writes, "Like most female mammals, human mothers must remain healthy and safe enough to protect their finite supply of oocytes, then later gestate and lactate. They also must provide physical resources, including food, shelter, and territories for themselves and their dependent offspring throughout their lifetimes." And this drive to always protect ourselves leads us to seek low conflict ways out. And one way to keep conflict low is to keep competition low. Benenson writes, "Girls use complex verbal and nonverbal tactics and physical movements that appear non-competitive on the surface. By age 3, girls far more than boys emphasize their caring and egalitarian natures, and niceness, which means concealing their goals. What girls learn to do with speech is cope with a contradiction created by an ideology of equality and cooperation and a social reality that includes difference and conflict." And this is where the tension lies. Like, we don't want conflict because we don't want harm to come to us, but we don't live in a conflict-free world. So what do? We enforce a culture of niceness. Benenson writes, "Girls denigrate superior acting girls. Girls evaluate one another in terms of niceness, that is, lack of competitiveness, whereas boys like high-status competitive boys." And where have we seen this before? You mean like everyday life? Our childhoods, our socializations, little girls all day, every day are taught to be nice, even when they shouldn't be. And it follows us into adulthood on the expectations put on us in the workplace, in business, in leadership. The expectation that you need to be nice, and when you fail to please every single person around you, you're next on the chopping block. And like I said, no nuance Nelly, there is space for both. That women, actually everyone really, should lead with kindness and grace. And that also women are held to unreal expectations for niceness in their personal lives and their professional lives. And the cost of not being nice, which is code for being competitive, is so high. And this cost is levied by other girls, by other women. Benenson writes, "Linguistic researchers conclude that a girl cannot assert social power or superiority as an individual without risking other girls' denigration. By age 3, girls enforce equality. Compared with boys, across diverse cultures, girls avoid employing signifiers of high status with same-sex peers, including commands, boasts, provision of information, or joke telling." Another movie reviewer study with same-sex groups of 4 3 to 5-year-olds demonstrates girls' dislike of superior girls. Those girls who took control and viewed the movies longest were less liked by all their female classmates than those girls who rarely viewed the movies. The opposite was true for the boys. And this is so interesting to me, especially the joke telling part, because I didn't know that girls and women avoided telling jokes. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Like, the women in your life aren't funny? Like, what do you mean? Like, you're keeping yourself from experiencing female humor. Like, I love telling and being told jokes, and I never thought that that was a sign that you feel safe around the women around you. Like, that blew my mind. And now, ever since reading this paper, I've become hyper aware of who is and isn't telling jokes. And it's just very interesting. The best friendships are like whenever you see each other, you're literally doubled over, laughing, crying, heaving, and just not even a lot of words. Like, you're just laughing so much. To think that a lot of women are not experiencing that is so sad. Anyway, Benenson suggests that from early childhood, girls are socialized to compete covertly, disguise ambition, and enforce equality among peers. Unlike boys, who are encouraged to engage in direct open rivalry, girls learn to sidestep conflict and avoid being seen as too dominant and punish other girls who attempt to break from the pack. It's very interesting, the parallels. In adulthood, this translates into a culture where women in leadership positions, they face not just professional scrutiny, but a level of personal judgment rarely imposed on men. And this pressure to be nice, the standard of niceness for female founders and leaders, has given rise to a term for female-led brands who fail to live up to it. And that term is mean girl brands. Like, do you see how ridiculous that is? Mean girl brands? Like, have you ever heard of a mean boy brand? Okay, like, we women are so good at indirect competition. Like, we really know where to like stick it and twist it where it hurts. And it's a skill. Honestly, it's a skill. But I wish we stopped turning it on ourselves. How about that? And the reality is, women founders will make mistakes, just like male founders do. Some will be forgiven, others won't. But if we truly care about ourselves and other women, we need to ask ourselves, do we demand more from women leaders than we do from men? And if so, why? If we're going to hold female founders accountable, we need to do so fairly. If you're going to leave a comment on Matilda Djerf's comment section, comment per comment, you got to leave one in a male founder's comment section too, someone who did something egregious too, you know? Like, do we not see how misogynistic it is? Like, and we're doing it to ourselves. And that's the internalized misogyny part, okay? Like, I'm all for holding people accountable for when they do wrong because it is a core part of us redefining power. And we're gonna get into it in a little bit. And I think it's a good thing, actually, that we are able to do this. But it's not too much to ask to reflect on if we are participating in a misogynist culture driven by our own internalized misogyny, okay? So if we're going to hold female founders accountable, we need to do so fairly. Not because they failed to be perfect, to be nice, to please everybody around them, but because they failed to do their jobs well. Anything beyond that is not about accountability or justice. It's about control. Now, enough with the negative stuff. Let's talk about the good that may possibly come from all of this. When women lead, they create spaces that center female consumers, not as afterthoughts, but as the priority. And the rise of beauty, fashion, wellness, and tech brands founded by women, this reflects a deeper change, where women aren't just buying products, they're designing, funding, and marketing them on their own terms. They are solving problems that male-led brands have ignored. The era of pink it and shrink it, where products for men are colored pink and just made smaller, is over. And if you've been in the Spoiled Girly support group, the vibe is matriarchy. The vibe is a society centered on women and children, and brands moving towards women, centering women, is a good thing. But beyond product innovation, these women-led brands, they're also changing how businesses communicate. Transparency has become a cornerstone of this new era, this female-founded brands era, where founders are expected to educate their audience, justify pricing, and offer behind-the-scenes insights that humanize their operations. And this brings us to female founders bringing in the age of transparency. We've seen a wave of female founders taking to social media to explain the why behind their brands. And this is insight that we as consumers wouldn't have had access to unless we were also in the industry or were in board meetings or quarterly reviews. For example, Odd Muse's Amy Smale broke down material costs in her now viral polyester police video.
The internet, the polyester police, can be so difficult.
And this is basically a reaction to people saying that her sweats are so expensive. Like, who would pay that much for a sweat set? And Amy Smale publishes this polyester police video explaining why her sweats are so expensive is because they're 100% cotton, heavy GSM, and therefore will be more expensive to produce. And another example was Set Active's Lindsay Carter. She went on TikTok to clarify why her brand isn't a drop-based model, but instead prioritizes smaller, financially sustainable inventory orders to avoid excessive storage costs and parked capital. And as someone who is also a super baby, like infant fetus founder, I already made this mistake. So yeah, like parked capital is not a good thing at all. Over ordering and parking your capital in something that isn't moving, that isn't flowing in and out of the business, do not recommend. And this kind of transparency from the founders themselves is a brand new expectation. This wasn't a thing before. Like, imagine like the CEO entrepreneurs of the olden days, going on TikTok telling you why their product is so expensive. Like, imagine, like, this is new, this is brand new, and women are at the forefront of it. And one sentiment I also picked up on was how people perceived the founders explaining their decisions and processes as condescending, as if people needed to be told the inner workings of their company.
Like, just tell us to use the thing and move on. Goddamn, like.
You know, like, a lot of people also had that vibe, and it just really reminds me of that paper that we just brought up earlier, is that girls don't like it when other girls, or women don't like it when other women explain things that they know about to them. Like, honestly, read that paper. It's open source. You can get it online. It's just so eye-opening. Like, it's hard to unsee. Like, once you see, you cannot unsee. You gotta wake up. And what I also got from this whole debacle, the polyester police video, the criticism of the drop-based model, is that you cannot please everyone. If you're not explaining your processes, your decisions, your reasons behind your pricing, reasons behind your certain decisions, you're gatekeeping. And when you do, you're condescending. And this just highlights how female founders, they are expected to perform constant justification in ways that male founders never have to. They are expected to constantly be people-pleasing everyone at the same time in ways that male founders have never been expected to, at least in the public social media eye. Because obviously male founders, they have to perform, they have to shake that booty for the boardrooms, you know, but not at the scale that female founders who build publicly are expected to. And another good thing that may have come from all of this is that now customers are more empowered to have their voices heard. Now that we live in the age of social media where comment sections have become focus groups, DMs have become a direct line to customer support, you can literally poll your audience for a new color or design for your next drop. It is very, very clear that consumers are now more involved in the brands that they consume. And that's a good thing. They ask more questions, they demand more accountability, and they push brands to be better. And one female founder who I think is doing this so well is Cassie Ho. She founded Popflex, and you may know her better as Blogilates, the fitness YouTuber. She's been in the game for a long, long time as an influencer, and she built Popflex, which is her athleisure brand. They also sent me a PR box last year, and I actually really, really love the hoodie. Like, I wore it in one of my videos, the elegance video, which is funny because it's about elegance and how to be an elegant woman. And I'm wearing the Popflex hoodie. And it's because the core message of that video is that elegance comes from within. It doesn't matter like what you look like. It's all about what's from within. But anyway, that hoodie is also a testament to elegance because Cassie listens to her customers in her comments section, and she designs her athleisure pieces from the comments in the comment section. Like, we don't want the mesh, take away the mesh. Like, there's like V1, V2, V3 of every design because each design keeps getting better depending on the comment section. And here we see the community effect and the crowdsourcing of ideas from the consumers, from the audience, from the comment section. And it's because comment sections have become a sort of focus groups for brands. So not only does the brand do well because they're actually making products that their customers actually want, their customers also feel empowered because they're part of the process, like they are in this together. And this is something new, like this is new. And female influencers, female founders are at the forefront of it. But there's a fine line between healthy and constructive discourse and criticisms and design requests and disproportionate scrutiny. Because while female founders are dissected for every misstep, male founders have scammed billions right in front of us, and we only see it when it's too late. Remember Sam Bankman-Fried's FTX scam, which wiped out billions of dollars, built on a house of deception, yet he was given the benefit of the doubt until the very end. And this isn't about excusing bad business practices, it's about consistency. Are we giving women the same grace that we give men? Or are we much harsher on women than we are on men? As Amy Timmerman 1 puts it, it's mean girl anti-feminist energy to hate on brands with public female founders. Park, Djerf Avenue, Daily Drills. Unless you were literally holding that same energy for every single huge corporation on earth, which I promise they are all so much worse and so much richer. Yeah, so that one called everybody out. Like I said, if you're gonna leave a mean comment on Matilda Djerf's comment section, you should also leave one on another male founder, CEO type person's comment section who has done something egregious recently. Okay. So how do we move forward? We hold brands accountable, yes, but we also recognize when criticism is fueled by gendered expectations, by misogyny, by internalized misogyny. If we demand perfection from female founders, but not from male ones, we aren't pushing for better business. We're reinforcing the same old power structures. We're reinforcing that women should always be followers and not leaders. Perfection is the enemy of progress. And if we are holding women to standards of perfection at all times, we are paralyzing generations of women from going after their hopes, their dreams, from creating a society of women who go after what they want. And that's exactly what these female founders are doing. They are reshaping the landscape of business, angel investing, venture capital, private equity, global wealth. And that's a good thing. And I touched on this earlier, but to reiterate, we are undergoing growing pains. We are in a transition period in which women are stepping into power, all while redefining that power. Like, don't you see? Female founders are occupying spaces at a scale that's never been seen before. And they are democratizing founderhood, offering us a look at the once mysterious stages of entrepreneurship, inspiring countless other women to go for what they want in life, in business, in a world stacked against them, all while making power relational, collaborative, instead of hierarchical. And that's a beautiful thing. That's all I have for you today. I just want to let you know that you have so much inherent worth and value in a world that is hell-bent on devaluing you. And a big thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring today's video. If you're struggling and think you'd benefit from a therapy session, click the link in the description or go to betterhelp.com/manifestelle to get 10% off your first month of therapy. That's betterhelp.com/manifestelle to get 10% off your first month of therapy. Now get that bag, bestie. Also, bestie, wake up.